Hello, and welcome to the Vicars Watch Dibley,
the podcast where three priests link our stories to those of the Reverend Geraldine Granger and other TV vicars. I'm Kate.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ruthie. This episode we are doing our Series 3 review, which is the episodes Autumn, Winter, Spring and Summer. So we talk about our favourite moments from the series, themes that run through it, and have a bit of a fun quiz at the end.
Good morning, afternoon or evening, everybody.
Good morning.
I mean,
nice covering.
I realise that it's technically morning for us, but for our beloved listeners, it could be any time of day. So hello, everybody, anywhere, all the time. Talk about people, please. And that's sorry, that was an intense way to start, wasn't it?
It reminds me of that bit in the Truman Show where he says, "Good morning, and if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night."
I love that.
I've never seen the Truman Show. I would like to watch it. I think it's a bit of a classic, isn't it? So
it is, yeah.
We should do a watch party.
Yeah.
Watch party. Wonderful. We here's a bit of a proviso for this episode. Kate is on it. Kate's good. Jenny, if you haven't already noticed, is losing her voice.
Forgive me.
And I am having a bad mental health day. So this episode is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I need to add another proviso that although I'm more on it than the others, I am still recovering from quite a bad back episode.
So
we're with you, but we're limping.
Yeah. We apologise? No, we don't. This is just
we
how
come
life
as we
is
are.
sometimes.
But we know that you're exactly the same, and we love you for it.
Yeah, so here's an episode of empathy for those who are wobbling through life a little bit at the moment. So we carry on, and we start with things that we've been loving this week. And Jenny, because of your enthusiasm, I've just seen there.
I did a fist punch in the air because I was joyful.
Apart from losing your voice, which might be something that you're not loving this week, what are you loving from this week?
It's hard to choose one. There's two things. Can I have two things?
Yeah,
I need a bit of cheering up, so I'm going to go for two things because they're equally high in my head. So I am very excited to announce to you all that I have a curate joining me in June. Very excited. I went to go and visit him the other day, and outside his house, his kind of family and community do a thing where they spot like different birds and animals and the wildlife that they've seen around. And they have this chalkboard up and people can sort of like write out which animals or birds they've seen. And like as a community, they get excited about it. And I just thought that is lovely. So that was something that I saw and I thought, I'd love to do something like that at the end of the Vicarage Drive. Or mind you, it's not so rural over here, but I just thought that was lovely. The second thing that really made me laugh today, I was just about to leave church after communion and my church warden was there and she was doing some stuff around safeguarding, volunteer forms, role descriptions, the stuff that keeps us safe when we enter new roles in church. And there were so many forms that she had her legs up on the pew. She was like lying down on the pew and all the different paperwork that she needed to hand over to the two volunteers was covering her literally from toe to neck. And I was like, I need to take a photo of you. That's hilarious. So I've been loving wildlife spotting with the community and very committed church wardens who hold it all together and who literally cover themselves in paperwork so the rest of us can do our jobs well and safely.
Amen. Amen. Very nice.
Cute.
What about you, Kate? What's something you've loved this week?
So I've also got two. Firstly, last week was the Feast of the Ascension.
Yeah.
Which is when Jesus rose up to heaven following Easter. And we took one of my primary schools on a pilgrimage to the village church. And this is the village where the old part of the village where the church is actually not distant, but not easy to get to from the new part of the village. But there are public footpaths. It's about a 45-minute walk from the school to the church. And we went with the Dean of the Cathedral, Dean Sarah, and about 28 children, year 5 and 6. and we took them on a pilgrimage to the church and back. And it was absolutely lovely. Firstly, showing them how you walk to the church safely, so you don't have to go on a busy main road. And just hearing, there was this one little boy who, once we reached the church, said, "Oh, it's my castle, it's my castle." Which was just lovely. And just seeing that sense of, oh, this is our church, this is how we get there. Unfortunately, we couldn't spend much time there because we only had 2 hours to get there and back. So we had a sort of 5-minute talk. The dean gave a little talk, and we gave him some water and an orange.
Yeah.
But if I do it again, I'll do it over lunch so they can have lunch at the church.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so that's one thing I really, really loved. And I took my little dog Millie, and she enjoyed it. And the children enjoyed Millie being there as well.
Of course.
Cute.
Yeah.
Of course. And then the other thing I like, which is more kind of church geeky, is it is the annual general meeting season, or in church language, the annual parochial council meeting, the APCM. I have 5 churches. I have 5 of these annual meetings, and last night I did my last one.
Yay!
I am done for the year, and it is an absolute joy. And actually, this year they were, dare I say it, almost life-giving meetings.
Awesome.
They were not a chore. They were actually quite okay.
Oh,
yeah,
that's wonderful.
I'm just, yeah, I'm in a good mood.
Oh. So, yeah, APCMs often involve a lot of paperwork and reports and things writing, and it takes over life. So doing that 5 times over, we know, has been quite a
marathon
brain fog for you.
Yeah. I'll share one further fun thing about the APCMs. I think the first of my APCMs, the second of them, which I had this time last week, my back was so bad to the point where I sent you 2 a message. Didn't I? I took some very strong painkillers because I could not do a podcast. It wouldn't have been good. Anyway, the meeting, because they all knew that I had a really bad back to the point where I could barely sit down, we managed to get the meeting done within like 40 minutes, which, like, that is a record for APCMs.
Oh, bless you.
I reckon you lied about your back just to get through it. You were like, I want this one to be short. Yeah, my back's very sore today. Oh, well then, something that I've loved this week has been, I've been away this past weekend. And so I've been at Scargill House, which is a retreat centre in Skipton, leading something with the people I work for, which is Missional Youth Church Network. So we've had a load of youth leaders and young leaders come along to this weekend and talk a bit about discipleship and helping teenagers to become followers of Jesus over this past weekend. And it's been great. And I've been with the young leaders. So these have been people who are leading youth churches who are aged between about 18 to, I think, about 23, 25 maybe we had there. So they're the younger end of the spectrum. And we just had a really great time, and we built Lego models, and we talked about what it's like to be a young leader. And I had a bit of an emotional weekend and got a bit teary in worship and things like that. So it was, it was really, really good. And because you've had 2, both of you, I'll throw in another one. That because I was away this weekend, my lovely mother-in-law and father-in-law came over for part of the weekend. My mother-in-law was there the whole weekend to help out with my beloveds here. And they went to a place called Haworth, which is famous for the Bronte sisters. They lived there, and they had a 1940s weekend this past weekend. And so all my family, they went there all together and had an excellent time. And it involved my son having 2 ice creams, so he had a great day. So I'm also thankful for family and them doing fun things while I'm away doing work, which was also fun. But yeah, different.
That's really cute.
Yeah. So this week we are doing our season 3 review and trying to work out what we were going to do with this. because Kate's on form and we're not, we're taking a lot of this from Kate. So thank you for actually doing the research. And it's an odd season for us to review because we've had it so spread out. So the episode Winter we did way back at Christmas, and the other ones we've done kind of more recently with different things going on. So we're going to do it actually in order today about the different episodes that go through season 3 and have a little look at them and how they all work. But first of all, we're going to think about the kind of overarching narrative of the season, and I will hand over to Kate, who has a lot more sensible things to say about this than either me or Jenny will.
Okay, so I want us all to travel back right to the very first episode of Vicar of Dibley. I'm going to give us a very brief summary of season 1 and 2. So, if you remember, series 1, or season 1, whatever we want to call it, began with Geraldine arriving in Dibley, and a lot of the core conflicts and story points were about the outside exterior conflict of her having to prove herself as vicar in that place, and very much the people around her were more antagonists than perhaps friends. Friendship built up over the season, but very much we started with that core conflict: can this woman be our vicar?
Yeah.
Then by the time we reached series 2, Geraldine had proven herself a little bit more, and people thought, yes, this is our vicar. And so the core conflict then became a bit more interior. It was about Geraldine's ego and her sense of self, the kind of culmination of that, of course, being celebrity vicar, and Geraldine very much becoming disconnected from her community, and her community hurting because she was prizing her own career and her own ego over them. And we finished series 2, season 2, with the wedding of Alice and Hugo, and we had we met Simon Horton, who is Hugo's uncle, David's brother, and she very almost run away to
Liverpool to be a live bird.
She almost ran away, got a job in Liverpool to be near him, and he said, oh, I'm moving to this part of the country, and he said, oh, I'm not going to Liverpool. Anyway, that's where we finished, with her having a bit of a flirtation with Simon Horton. Now we have arrived in what we are calling season 3. Really, it's called the seasonal specials, but for our purposes, and I think according to Wikipedia, it's called season 3. Yeah. So these are autumn, winter, spring, and summer. The series begins, or the season begins. I keep using these words interchangeably.
Well, we've got American listeners and we've got British listeners, so series or season, that works. That could be the Q&A question for Spotify. Would you prefer it being called series or season? Series or season,
yes. So we begin opening in autumn. Geraldine is very much having a romance with Simon.
Very much.
And I will not go too far into what's happening in the episode, but I would like to say that the whole narrative progression of these 4 episodes is thinking about community, and now Geraldine as part of the communities she's in, whereas before she was proving herself to the community, then she was learning to become part of the community rather than prizing her interior ego. Now she is part of the community, and what we see through her romance in autumn and how the community responds to that and supports her through it, to the nativity play where she is really building the community and reaching out to them, to the baptism in spring where she very much is in community with her church family, and then culminating in the summer episode with community in action and a protest to save Dibley.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually, you worded it like that, because in the previous 2 series/seasons, she's very much been a kind of outsider in lots of different ways, whereas this, she is much more like, she's still involved in the community and part of it, but she's much more a part of it for these episodes than she has previously. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it feels very much more like the parish council are working together in nearly every episode, whereas in previous series it's been Geraldine, of course, is our protagonist. We're always going to centre on her. But it's almost been like we've had Geraldine's plot and then the parish council's subplot. And those have met and interacted. But now it feels like the two are much more woven together.
I think that mirrors real life ministry actually very well and very accurately. Because thinking about like applying the Vicar of Dibley to our real life context, I definitely sense with incumbent vicars that have been in their patch for like 2, 3 going on years, they're like, yeah, I've arrived now. I know what I'm about, I know what I'm doing, know the people. I wonder if it's that classic thing of at first you have to sort of storm and form before you norm. And it's so cool to see that. I like how you described it, to see that play out in fictional church family as well. Encouraging.
Yeah.
I hope that is encouraging as well to people starting new things. Actually, it does take time, a lot of energy, a lot of hard work to really get to know people and for them to trust you in ministry. It's a huge part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that works for just anything in life. I'm just thinking, you've just sent me back to primary school, and I moved primary school in year 5. And I never felt part of that community because all those friendship groups had been like properly formed because they'd been there since reception. So like, age 4, 5, and I joined when I was about 9 or 10. And so when it came to the kind of final, we had a final service in year 6 before we moved up to big school, and loads of people were crying and upset that they're moving on from their friends, and I was just there like. And then having to form a whole new community in secondary school, and only being there for 18 months or something like that, I never felt part of that community. Whereas my brother, who had gone in year 3, I think it must have been, started much younger, so he felt far more part of that primary school community than I did, because he'd had the time to establish himself and have those friendships, and whereas I didn't.
I think it's even a sense of how we classify our identity. So I'm one of 4 siblings, and from a clergy family, we've moved around a lot. We all grew up in different parts of the country. Yeah. Like my siblings are quite a bit older than me as well. So it's really interesting seeing where we identify ourselves as being from.
Yeah.
So, I am the only one of my siblings who considers myself as being from the north, because the majority of my life, we moved to Cumbria when I was 4 years old. So the majority of my life was formed from growing up in Cumbria. So I consider myself as being, if not from Cumbria, then I grew up in Cumbria. But I tend to say I grew up in Cumbria because I wasn't born there and my parents aren't from there. But my siblings don't have that as part of their identity as much. They have less of a sense of being northern in that sense, because they have more memory of living in the south than I do.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's the challenge of moving about lots, isn't it? I have great admiration for people who've lived in the same place for a long time, and it feels so alien to me because I've always moved about lots. So, like Kate, if someone asks where you're from, I will say wherever I'm living. If they ask where's home, it's wherever I'm living, because I've moved about much. And if they go, oh no, like where are you from? I'll say, well, I'm a bit of a general northerner, so I'm a bit of a Yorkshire, Lancashire combined. But I've lived all over the shop. But what about you, Jenny? Because you've been a bit more static, haven't you?
I have, yeah. So it's interesting, though, when I'm reflecting a little bit while you've been talking, because whenever someone goes, oh, where are you from? Or like, where's home for you? I always say, when I was born in Burnley. So, like, I want to claim my northern heritage, although I was only there for, like, couple of years and was like, oh, it originated from the north. And I think that helps people just occasionally, because my mum's got a northern accent, so sometimes some of my words come out really randomly, like north, like, do you know what I mean? Like hard A's, you know. Anyway, so I always start there. That's like my origin place. But actually, I grew up mostly in the town of Oundle in Northamptonshire, so which is really handy because I'm still in Northamptonshire now as a vicar. So I feel like there's something nice for people that they think, oh, you're a local lass kind of thing. There's something, especially in my village, like people tend to be born, marry and die in this village or in the very close surroundings. So I think it's helpful tools sometimes, not all the time, I'm sure people don't mind, but to be able to say, oh yeah, this county is, you know, where I did all my growing up from, you know, 2 through to now, apart from, you know, going elsewhere for education and stuff. But yeah.
It gives you a bit of authority, doesn't it?
Maybe it does,
It's something I noticed when I was a curate, or was it when we were training? It was when I was a curate. We did a mission in Cumbria, and I was part of a team that went there. It was really interesting going back, because I so quickly slipped back into I am Cumbrian mindset. My accent got a lot more Cumbrian.
Oh, really?
My parents have southern accents, so that's why my own accent is so messed up, because but a lot of my identity growing up was proving that I was not a southerner, because that would have made me a target, you know. Got made fun of if I did for long A's, for example. You know, it's not a castle, it's a castle. So, you know, like, it's a huge part of my psyche. But anyway, I went back, and it was really interesting seeing I was accepted. It's like, oh yeah, you're one of ours. You grew up in Cockermouth, you're one of ours. But then even down here, so I'm not from this part of the country originally, and people find it a bit weird when they hear my accent. They say, why did you come here? But then when I start saying, oh, you know, I grew up in Borderlands, and I grew up in a rural area in the Borderlands, you know, up near Scotland. But it's so interesting how much more accepted I am being on the borderlands of Wales because I grew up on the borderlands of Scotland.
It's interesting.
And so there's something about identity and place and how long you've spent in one place or similar places and how it becomes part of your identity. And I think what we see, bringing it back to Vicar of Dibley in this season in particular, is Dibley has become part of Geraldine's identity.
Yeah.
Which maybe in previous seasons it hasn't quite as much, but now she's realised, no, this is where I am.
Yeah.
This is who I am. I'm not trying to escape. I'm not trying to leave. Actually, I'm happy in Dibley. And we saw that in the final episode of a previous season where she decided not to go to Liverpool.
Yeah.
So should we do a little reminder then of the episodes from this?
Yeah, we've had a little overview, haven't we? But let's dive on in. So I love series 3 in a way because it takes you through the whole year, like autumn, winter, spring, summer. But yes, we start with autumn, and we kind of pick off from where season 2 ended with Alice and Hugo marrying. So season 3 begins with their return from honeymoon. Oh dear, I think we felt quite sorry for Hugo in this, first few scenes. He's had a run-in and got mistaken for like a drug smuggler, which isn't ideal. I mean, we don't see anything, but we hear Alice retelling the story, and bless Hugo retelling the story as well. Very, very funny. We also find out that Alice is pregnant, so that kind of opens up a whole new world of things to get excited about between Alice and Geraldine, which is lovely. As we have previously alluded to, we see Simon again. Simon Horton, who is, as we've just reminded ourselves earlier, is back. He is Hugo's uncle. And the relationship, the flirtation that was left off in season 2 really comes into blossom and bloom quite fully. So I don't know, I can't remember the moment, but they basically definitely have a relationship. They start dating. We have those kind of scenes of them going on dates together, spending nights together, a lot of time. We can tell that Geraldine is quite infatuated, and she is finding it difficult to spend a lot of time with him because people from the Parish council keep on dropping in and want to be knowing everything that she's up to. She's trying to be private, but it's not going very well. Eventually, this comes to a bit of a head when Geraldine is in the vicarage playing Scrabble, pretending that Simon isn't upstairs waiting for her. And eventually he comes down in a very small dressing gown, might I add,
yes,
and tells them all to go away. Eventually, they all know exactly what's going on between the two of them. They're all a bit awkward about it. And we think, oh, finally, something's going to, maybe really kick off now between these two. But in a matter of, I don't know, few minutes really, Simon confesses that he has a love elsewhere back in Liverpool, and actually the season that is now coming to an end. Geraldine, I think it's fair to say, is heartbroken. In fact, she's angry, and she's like, right, you knobber. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't say that. She's like, right, you diddly, get out. I'm not having this. There has been an amazing ice cream freezer, which I think we'll touch on later. She makes him return the ice cream and basically not kicks him out, but she pretty much does. She's gutted and so humiliated by this and by the fact that it didn't blossom into anything long term. She feels foolish, that she thinks she's going to have to resign. How can I possibly preach on Sunday? She sort of says and hints at to Alice, when I've lived in a way that just doesn't reflect kind of what I believe. And she just feels so gutted. However, the parish council rally. They send her a letter because they want her to come outside to see something, to make it clear how they feel about her letter of resignation. And they produce a beautiful banner for her, which puts very clearly, very directly, exactly how they feel. And because of that, she goes, I'm going to stay. And it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster of an episode, this first one.
It's lots of ups and downs, isn't it?
And it's an interesting episode because it's answering one of the core conflicts that we've had so far, which is, will Geraldine find someone and fall in love? We'll talk about this a bit more later.
So we move from autumn into winter, and probably one of the most famous episodes in the whole of Vicar of Dibley, probably the one that we remember most, is the one where they decide to do a nativity play for Christmas, but they decide to do it properly on a farm with actors playing the different roles and having animals around and everything like that. So we see Geraldine in her full-on drama teacher mode, getting people to do their interpretations of different scenes and practicing that, and she's wearing all her flouncy stuff, so she looks like a proper thespian. And from that, we also have the classic moment where Alice is playing Mary because she's pregnant, and she gives birth in the nativity scene. She's very, very in character, everyone thinks, but actually, no, she is really giving birth, and in front of all these animals and all the spectators who think, wow, this is very realistic. And we have baby Geraldine born in a stable. I think this might be my definitely a top 3 for favourite episodes, this particular one.
Yeah, it's a wonderful episode.
Yeah.
And it's inspired me. I want to do a live action nativity.
Yeah, I remember you saying you need to get planning, Kate.
I've got plans. I think I've already got the school on board.
Oh, fab!
I mentioned to them around Christmas last year, and they were really interested.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Jenny, why don't you tell us about spring?
I will do that. So from autumn to winter, we then come on to spring. Spring is exciting. Baby Geraldine is going to be christened. So in order for Geraldine to be godparent, David invites an old friend, as it were, to perform the service. No, what's the right word? Not to perform, but to...
Officiate.
Oh, thank you. Officiate the service. And now, it's actually such a funny person. The clergy person has a problem where they randomly shout. So I'm sure many of you who have seen the episode can remember exactly the way that he does this, which makes for a lot of comedy. So between Alice and Hugo, Geraldine, David, and this clergy person, is he the bishop? I think he's a bishop now, isn't he? What's his name?
He's a bishop. Bishop of... Is it Mulberry?
Bishop of Mulberry, yes. Because he's like, I'm the Bishop of Mulberry!
Yeah, Bishop of Mulberry.
Yeah, and he has some hilarious prayers as well. I remember one point in the episode, he asks for a silence, and then he goes, absolute silence, please. Absolute silence. 10 little fingers, 10 little toes. Like, it's absolutely terrifying and hilarious. Anyway, so I'm racing ahead. So basically this episode is all about baby Geraldine being baptised. However, as a kind of additional plot, David proposes to Geraldine. And I think this is basically, everybody is thinking about family life and seasons. I think even David says, having baby Geraldine around has got him thinking about what matters most. And kind of to our surprise, Geraldine says yes. I thought it was all a dream, but no. The PCC meeting, there's a cello, there's a bright pink shirt, a very romantic and heartfelt proposal. And I do believe that David very much means it. Geraldine says...
I'm just reliving it.
Geraldine says yes, and she's set to become the Reverend Horton. So it's all going well, and then... Well, I say it's all going well. I think Geraldine's starting to just imagine what life would be like, but still she's going along with it. Everyone's getting excited. The pressure's on. It's building. But then there does come a dream, and it's a dream where Geraldine has a beautiful collection of chocolates in her hair. She's a bride, she's ready for the big day. And just as she's about to accept David as her husband, Sean Bean bursts through the church door and says, in a very hunky way, "Come on, lass, it's not him you love, it's me." And she's like, you're right, Sean, I love you, save me, and runs to him. It's beautiful. So in the end, that's Geraldine's way of saying, actually, David, I can't marry you because I don't love you. So another roller coaster of an episode, really. She does not become Reverend Horton after all.
No, but we do see David and Geraldine kind of make peace with this towards the end of the episode.
Definitely. We do.
There's that lovely line where he talks about, for the minutes, can I just recognise that you were a wonderful woman and just recognised how special you are.
And that he had the sense to. That's so true. And actually the christening of baby Geraldine kind of brings them together at the end, doesn't it? They kind of have their own little in-joke, and they're, standing next to each other, watching this gorgeous little girl be welcomed into the family of God. You're right, that is the best part, really. Very moving. And again, with the hilarious bishop offering his prayers and leading liturgy. And
but also creepy bishop, because he makes some very creepy comments when he first meets Geraldine.
Oh, he does, yeah.
Remind me, I've forgotten.
Doesn't he say holy in more ways than one?
I think Geraldine says that about herself, I think.
Yeah.
No, but he says something before that causes her to say
I think he goes, you're one of those
you're
women
one
vicars,
of those
are you?
women vicars or something like that.
And she's like, yeah, holy in more ways than one.
It's a way he says it, though, isn't it? There's something...
Yeah, and then he says to David, when David said, actually, she's the best vicar, he says, I didn't realise you were giving her one.
That's the groceries bit. Yeah, that's it. Oh,
gross.
dear. Yeah, ups and downs.
Ups and downs. What's next?
Summer! In summer! Thank you, Olaf. Summer! We have the antagonist, Mr. Badcock, don't we? Because there is a water shortage and a hosepipe ban and all this kind of stuff going on.
Is that his name?
Mr. Badcock, yes, it was his name.
Okay, I missed that. Sorry. Carry on.
Comes along from the water board to tell them that they have a solution to the lack of water, and the idea is that they're going to flood Dibley to create a new reservoir. And Owen punches him, which is always great fun. And they decide they're going to protest this. Actually, no, they don't initially, do they? Because they find out how much money they're getting and where they're going to be rehomed to, and everyone's keen about it. And it's like, yep, great, flood Dibley.
Everyone except
Geraldine, who this has become her home and her community, and she doesn't know where she'll go, whereas everyone else has been assigned a new place to go or are given enough money to start a new life. And then it's Alice who reminds them when they say, actually, they're on board with this. And Alice says, so where are they building the new Dibley? And they're reminded that there won't be a new Dibley and they'll be sent to different places and all this kind of thing. And they decide to start a protest. And Geraldine chains herself to the church, much to the embarrassment of David. They get Bros in, don't they? And Anton Deck and all these different people to help try and save Dibley. And eventually... everyone's chained to the church, including David at the very end, because he becomes part of the Save Dibley campaign. Oh, and there's loads of people who gather around, don't they? They talk about Geraldine's arse, don't they? And
Jim has
arse.
Yeah.
I've forgotten that.
Jim is a little bit indiscreet about his passions.
And eventually the Mr. Badcock comes up to say that they're not going to flood Dibley, and it's nothing to do with the protests, but actually it's to do with Owen's plan to make sure that the village is saved, saying that there's rare animals, and the one-legged blue-crested chicken that Owen has mutilated and painted is the reason that Dibley gets saved. And so Dibley's saved, and it's all wonderful. And I can't actually remember how it finishes. Oh, it finishes with a statue, doesn't it?
Yes, it is.
Because it's the millennium, and that was the beginning of it, wasn't it? That they were going to create a statue, and Geraldine thinks it's going to be a statue of her to save, who's helped save the parish, but actually it turns out being baby Geraldine, and it's a super creepy statue. And they talk about looking to the future and not to the past.
Yeah, I love that. I think that actually thinking about baby Geraldine, even from the very first episode where we find out she's a tiny bit of womb fruit, to the very end of this series, in some way or another, she is shaping and bringing together the community. And she is the constant, isn't she? And then at the end, like, she's the why we're all doing anything, like, looking to the future, which highlights so, like, sorry to ministry off again, but, like, the importance of children and families in what we do in our churches, in our worship. And I think we're going to think about it'd be nice to reflect on some of our favourite moments as we look back over this season. And actually thinking about, baby Geraldine's role, she can't even talk yet, but just the things that happen around her because of her is just really lovely to see. In fact, I think one of my favourite moments of this series is her christening, because, like, you kind of reminded me about the closeness that comes between Geraldine, the vicar, and David, the hilarity of the bishop, but also that real beautiful moment. I mean, it's funny because Alice has dressed baby Geraldine in her swimming costume, and, she's not sure how deep she's going to go. Still a very common question, I hasten to add, with our baptism prep. Like, do we put the whole baby in the font? But, like, there's something really beautiful about how she brings the community together. It's like two Geraldines working together.
Yeah. As you've kicked us off, let's go through some more favourite moments then. And one of my favourite moments in the series has to be the wedding dream nightmare where Sean Bean comes in and saves Geraldine. And I think that might be a fantasy for many men, women and non-binary fineries, that Sean Bean would come along and save them from a disastrous marriage. So,
bless him. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be your best bit.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think one of my favourite parts was when Geraldine is trained for church and she's taking a service while trained for church.
Yeah.
And then, like, she shouts responses and then they all leave crawling between her legs. That was a fun part. And I do just need to chip in, sort of just think, as you were just talking about baptising and people asking, do you dip the whole baby? And I just had a memory today. On Monday, I took a reception into the church and we did a pretend baptism on a doll.
Oh,
I just suddenly remembered that I'd done that, and I just need to share it because it was so lovely. I baptised a doll for reception class.
I love that. Those moments are so precious, aren't they?
Yeah.
Good thing in ministry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think talking of good bits in ministry, this one isn't necessarily ministry specific. I think I linked this earlier to, I think it's in autumn, another favourite moment or scene, or just item really, which possibly has changed my life for the better, is the idea of having one massive, probably 6'5" freezer dedicated wholly and solely to ice cream. Like, I'm looking at pictures of it now, and I'm getting a bit moist around the lips. There's Ben and Jerry's, there's Haagen-Dazs, there's Carte d'Or, all different sizes, all different flavours. And again, I think that's an image that definitely stays with me from this series. I love it.
I mean, I have a drawer dedicated to ice cream in my freezer, but an entire freezer dedicated to ice cream is something to aspire to.
It is. The thing is, I worry I haven't got any control over my feasting of ice cream, which is bad. I need to ask the Lord to help me with my discipline, but if I had that freezer, oh man, it might all go in one day. Actually, hopefully not, but probably would.
If in your prayers to the Lord for discipline with ice cream, if you could mention Benjamin in that.
Oh, really?
Oh, the kid loves ice cream. It's like a daily ice cream he's after.
Oh.
I mean, it's sunny now. I get it. I would like daily ice creams, but sometimes it's creeping into 2 a day and we're going, Ben, no.
Do you know what you should do?
One.
you should, when you freeze some yogurt, if you freeze fruits, you can tell him it's like ice cream, a slightly healthier version.
That's true.
Or make your own ice lollies or something. Does he? Would he go for those?
And
with squash.
You can make yogurt and fruit. You can make yogurt and fruit ice lollies.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to go.
I can understand his passion for ice cream. I commend it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm on board with him 100%. I mean, I would have 3 ice creams a day minimum if I could. But we're trying to learn that ice cream is a treat and not a daily necessity.
Really good. Teach that young. Teach it young.
One of my other favourite bits also comes from that episode a bit later. No, it's a bit before that. When Geraldine has Simon secreted in her room and the gang come over trying to help her and make sure that she's not lonely, and they come over to play Scrabble. They're playing Scrabble and she's using her tiles to send pretty brutal messages that she wants them to leave. And just that whole scene as well of where she keeps going to the door and she says, I hate being a vicar, but then she tries to not do it and then she does it, and the wrestle she has with being a priest and having her own needs, but also having the needs of her community. And when Jim and Frank come at the door saying that they've got a really big problem, that's the point that she's like, this is where I need to be, and lets them in, and then finds out the problem's actually a crossword puzzle as opposed to something actually major.
So good.
But subtle messages through Scrabble is great fun.
So my favourite moment from particularly this autumn episode that we're talking about has changed in the moment between planning and actually recording this episode. I initially said it was the banner that the rest of the parish council put together to say how much they didn't care about Geraldine having had her romance and how they still loved her. But actually, it's the moment that Geraldine throws Simon out of her house.
Yeah.
And then takes the ice cream back from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I think actually that's... I love that moment.
Yeah. She shows us how to dump someone well when they've been so disloyal. Yeah, basically.
And a mitigated arse.
Well done, Jerry. Oh, it's sad though. But yeah.
And then you'll be wondering why we haven't mentioned the winter episode at all, and that's because we love the winter episode.
Just all of it.
We just love all of it.
Yeah.
But particularly the nativity play, all of us, it's a favourite for all of us.
It's magical.
Every moment of it. Every moment. From David...
being Herod
and giving out the coins and the chocolate. Because he's actually quite a nice man.
I love you, Herod.
Yeah.
I love you, Herod. And Alice, the bit where Alice and Geraldine are doing kind of preparation, and Geraldine's pretending to be Joseph, and that Alice and her are having that argument.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful acting from Alice.
Yes. And scene.
So good. Yeah, so many high points. Love it.
And just the whole scene of them on the farm, and then Alice giving birth, and all of them not realising that this is actually happening until the point that, baby Geraldine is crowning at that point, I believe. And then they go, okay, she's not acting. It's just ace.
Or Geraldine practicing with the Jim and Frank and Owen, and she keeps prompting them for the words, and then she pauses and they try to chip in with her words, and she says, "Yes, I know the words."
I think, Geraldine is quite angry for a lot of this episode, like all through the rehearsal. She's got a bit of a director's attitude on her, hasn't she? Like, but I love it. It is really cool to see.
Well, she's recovering from the thing with Simon, and I think we didn't, but because we watched it out of order, we kind of missed this whole the conclusion of Simon, where the community is still supporting her and they're letting her still mourn the loss of that relationship and be in Storm without it being a conflict with their relationship.
Yeah. I think it also demonstrates that episode as well about passion in ministry, and that, you know, when you have a big passion project, you put your heart and soul into it and you work so hard for it. I'm thinking about when I did at Christmas and it was COVID, and we did when we did a driving nativity service and a driving carol service, and that took up so much of my time and my energy and my brain power, but it was just so worth it in the end, because it was brilliant when all those cars started driving in to come and do this, and I was just like, oh, amazing.
Seeing the fruits of all that energy and time. Yeah, it's lovely.
So those are the episodes individually, and we've talked a bit about kind of key themes through it accidentally, but actually we thought we'd just go through some of the big themes that are running through all of these series, apart from the big theme that we didn't mention. Well, we've not mentioned in our notes, which is baby Geraldine, because she is the theme throughout the whole series, and she helps shape the whole thing. But there are other key themes in this series, aren't there, Kate?
Yeah, I already mentioned this in my overarching narrative overview summary, but I think community and community identity is a really strong theme in this season. Thinking about how the community supports Geraldine, how Geraldine works with the community to pull off some amazing things, and Geraldine really feeling like the community, it's her home. Dibley is her home. These people are her home. These are the people who make her her. And community is just a huge part of ministry as well. When you reflect on what a priest is, what a vicar is, a large part of our job is being in the community and supporting the community. It ranges from the church community to the whole of your parish that you're living in, to your deanery, to your diocese. You are supporting people and trying to enrich the lives of everyone who live in the area. Whether that's through events, through services, through prayer, through presence, in so many different ways.
It's all about community, isn't it? And it's the joy of the parish system in the Church of England is that every community is covered, and you have a patch that, you know, these are the people I'm called to love and serve. And it might be a really mixed community, or it might be fairly similar, or whatever it is. And we know that communities don't always work geographically in lots of ways still today, but actually knowing that this is my patch and this is the people that I'm called to love and serve, and this is my community. Another key theme throughout all of these episodes, but I think it's a key theme for most of the series, is romance. And we see how things go with Simon, and how things go drastically wrong with Simon, and the whole sex before marriage thing is discussed, and especially if you're a vicar, that's even worse. And the struggle of dating in ministry, and being in a relationship, and being owned by the community in a good way and in a bad way, and Geraldine just wanting to find her person to share life with.
Yeah, and I think really setting us up for the next part of her romantic story.
Yes! I can't wait.
We have her swept off her feet romance at the start of this season, and then we have the what I would call the Charlotte Lucas romance.
Yes.
Accepting David, but then deciding that actually she can't just marry because it's a sensible choice.
Yeah.
Like, she needs more. And there's something about her learning what she actually wants from romance. I think previous seasons, it's been more, she's been having her flirtations. But now she's actually working out, getting serious, what do I want from a relationship?
Yeah. Charlotte Lucas, for context, if you are not as up on your Jane Austen as me and Kate are, is the one who marries Mr. Collins as a marriage of convenience in Pride and Prejudice.
But I think this reflects real life for, I don't know if you two can speak on this, in terms of the journey towards becoming ready to actually meet your life partner and settle down.
Yeah, who do you settle for? Growing together in relationships is such a key thing as well. And actually, the person that I am when I initially married isn't the person I am today, because I have changed and you change together and you grow and I think you learn some of those lessons in other relationships if you've had other relationships, but you learn them through marriage as well. Jenny, you're nearly up to a year, aren't you?
Yeah,
Heading towards
about 7 months. Yeah. So, I was just thinking that I was thinking on actually the person you choose when you're the ordained person does have to deal with a life where your ministry is public. I know we've touched on this before and talking about the vicarage and boundaries and priorities, time sharing and all that kind of lovely stuff. So it can come with its own set of challenges, but when it works well, it's such I think a really wonderful thing for your spouse to flourish in their own way, in the kind of, church setting and in their own ministry, no matter whether they want to be up front and doing stuff or they want to be not involved at all and there to worship. Like, it's nice that, there are a whole spectrum of how clergy couples do it. And that's a cool thing, but it can be a difficult thing though. It's not all smooth sailing, I think.
No, I think there has to be that understanding that being a vicar isn't a job.
Yeah.
In lots of ways, actually, it's a calling, and you don't have the 9 to 5 hours, and things will look very different, and seasons will change, and your workload might get bigger, it might get smaller, and that all shifts, and actually you don't always have control of that.
Yeah. Supportive person is the best person.
Yes.
Understanding.
Yeah. So, romance.
Another thing we talked about when we were kind of thinking about this series was family. In fact, Kate mentioned it and I pushed her on it a bit to be like, what do you mean family? Tell me about that. And I think we've kind of hinted at this already at the beginning of the episode, but how the church family go from being almost antagonistic towards Geraldine, kind of unsure and trusting, then to being like, co-workers and colleagues a bit more in series 2. And then finally in series 3, like waves of love and acceptance and warmth with all the ups and downs that life throws. And so, a growing sense of family I think we can draw out here. Especially something that will link Geraldine to Alice and Hugo forever, and baby Geraldine is their invitation that she would be a godparent. Like, that's one of probably the greatest privileges if your church family ask you to be someone that will watch over, pray for, and just try and encourage in their faith for the rest of their life, the little one's life, no matter, where else your ministry takes you. What a privilege. So, there's definitely a growing sense of family in this series as well.
Yeah, and there's actually something very beautiful about both of Geraldine's romances in this season toy with the idea of her becoming a Horton and being related to us
of course,
through marriage. But actually, the way that she becomes tied to them is through becoming godparents to baby Geraldine. And that's so beautiful, because it for me it almost touches on a much deeper level, tying to them together spiritually as family. Where it's very, very much a choice.
I think it's important for us to note as well that we mean family in the best sense. So we know that some people listening and will have had difficulties with their family, and family won't necessarily be a positive thing. But actually this is a family, yes, that bickers and falls out over stuff, but actually is tied by love and is united together and has each other's backs, and yes, disagrees about different things, but it is the best kind of family and not just a warring family.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what the church should be. It's
Yeah,
not always.
Absolutely.
We fall out because we're
definitely.
human and we
And
get
that's
things wrong.
part of family as well, isn't it? To disagree, but to disagree like well and lovingly. And yeah, I think using that rhetoric in church is really important. Like, I try as much as I can in church to talk about the church as church family. I think that image is really important because it's like, tough and beautiful seasons will come and go and everything in between. But at the end of the day, like, we stick it out, we're honest to each other, and, you know, we accept that we are all one in Christ Jesus, you know, heirs of the promise. So whatever happens, we have that to fuel us and to rely on as well.
And speaking of seasons, this whole series goes through the church year quite well, doesn't it? And it pulls out kind of significant moments. We don't get Easter in the same way, because we did Easter Bunny, didn't we? But way back in series 1
with lovely Mrs. Cropley.
And we go through the different seasons and the kind of things that happen in those different seasons, and what the church year kind of looks like is a bit hinted in this series. And it is quite nice that there's a very, well, it's given by the titles of each episode, that there's a very linear way of going through this, and a very literal through the year and through the different seasons, and seeing how life changes and adapts.
Yeah. And I mean, this role, this life, very much is tied to the seasons, not just of the church, but of wherever you are, in the social landscape of where you live. You know, every village, every town, every city, suburb has its own calendar, the things that happen throughout the year. Like, we have a duck race in one of my villages every year in the summer. And, you know, and another church always has an Easter fair, and you have those things which you navigate through and around, and it's a beautiful journey. And you feel deeply, deeply connected. At least for me, I feel deeply connected to the changing of the seasons.
Yeah. Do you think that's a particularly rural thing?
I think to an extent it is. I mean, definitely for me, because I'm confronted by the changing seasons every time I look out a window, every time I step out the front door. You know, what in autumn the paths are lined by berry bushes, and at the moment in start of summer they're lined by wildflowers. You know, and then in spring there's loads of daffodils, and then also you have a rural community, so you have things like around harvest, there's loads and loads of tractors pulling along trailers full of potatoes. And the roads are scattered with potatoes that have fallen off. But then in spring, when it's planting season, you also have the tractors all travelling around. There's something about rural ministry perhaps which is even more connected to the seasons. When everyone is saying, all the lambs have been born, it's lambing season, and we're supporting, you know, and you have a knowledge of what's happening, even if you're not directly involved with farming. You have a knowledge of what is happening, and then the villages tend, and rural communities do tend to embrace the seasonal events potentially a bit more, whereas churches, in my experiences in more urban areas, you, the church, you're creating your events potentially more than joining in with the stuff that's happening in the village or local community anyway.
Yeah. Kate, you've also mentioned in our note-taking that you feel this series talks about the 5 marks of mission. Could you first of all explain what the 5 marks of mission are, and then explain how you think they talk about that?
So they're tell, teach, tend, transform, and treasure. So tell is proclaim the good news of the kingdom. Teach is teach, baptise, and nurture new believers.
Respond to human need by loving service.
Oh yes, so tend is respond to human need by loving service. Transform is to transform unjust structures of society.
So good.
To transform unjust structures of society, to challenge violence of every kind, and to pursue peace and reconciliation. And treasure is to strive to safeguard the integrity of creation, and to sustain and renew the life of the earth. So it's categorizing what we do as a church on building the kingdom of God, what sorts of things we should seek to be doing. So we should be seeking to proclaim the good news of the kingdom, to share the gospel, but then also to teach, baptize and nurture those new believers. Then we need to respond with compassion in the world to those that need it through our own service, to be servant-hearted. Then we need to challenge unjust power, unjust structures. This is a kind of social action prerogative that we need to follow. And then finally, it's caring for creation and caring for the climate, recycling, everything that goes into that eco-church.
And now you've said all that, I'm going,
now I've said all that,
I can see the links.
Why did this series make me think of that? Partly it's because, again, we're seeing a full year, but we're starting to see Geraldine mobilising the community to enact good in the world. I mean, we see a baptism of a child, and we have that, we've got that reflection that can be started thinking about bringing new people into the faith. And we also see proclaiming the good news of the kingdom. That's the nativity play that she does out in the community, sharing the good news of Jesus' birth. Then we have the protest to save Dibley, which is seeking to, I think, which is both seeking to transform the unjust structures of society, but also safeguarding the integrity of creation. So for me, that's like, I think we could really unpick that and think about how all of those marks of mission, I mean, potentially responding to human need by loving service is the one we don't see as much, but actually we don't see Geraldine do it, but we see the parish council do it for her. In that they are caring for her well-being, they are showing how much they love her and care for her and building her up in her hour of need.
I love that.
I'm getting all emotional now.
Bab. Yeah.
5 marks of
mission.
mission.
Nice one.
Bosh.
This is a sort of thing, by the way, we should print off and put next to our bed, and every day wake up and read, and every night go to bed and read, and think and ask God to help us to fulfill this and to become it and to be it more. Like I'm reading these through and thinking, oh my goodness, we need to look at these in church again, because they're so inspiring, and I love them. Woohoo!
Yeah, they're so. The thing is, with any of these things, when you talk about them in theory, everyone goes, oh, another initiative. But actually, when you delve into them, they are such a helpful tool. Messy Church also has a set of values or marks which are really helpful to explore in their recent research. I'm currently exploring Church Urban Fund has a course which they've put together called Growing Good, which I'm thinking of journeying with one of my churches to do. These things, they help us. These structures, these frameworks help us reflect on what we are doing and how we are doing it and why we are doing it, and they can inspire us as well. Just as as we've been reflecting on the Vicar of Dibley and where these marks could be in this season, actually. That's now inspired. I feel inspired now to go and do the 5, as you said. Print them out. Put them on the bedstand.
Yeah. It could be your new live, laugh, love. Instead of that, you have tell, teach, tend, treasure, transform.
Fridge magnets. We need more fridge magnets.
I'm gonna make art.
Lovely.
Fridge magnets.
So
yeah. So that's an overview of the whole kind of series and themes and stuff like that.
So in these previous season review episodes, I think we've done quizzes, haven't we? So I have prepared, I don't know if it's really a quiz, it could be a quiz. I've got a series of quotes from across those 3, series 1, 2 and 3. And we're going to see if you can finish the quote.
Love it.
Jenny v. Ruthie.
What do we need to shout out?
Oh, man. Okay. Can I just say, for the record, my book, which has the script in, is going over here, so I do not have access
Phones
to
away,
it,
please.
so I cannot cheat.
Yeah, I'm going to close my laptop.
I think Jenny's going to smash this.
Do we need to buzz in with our name or with a sound or?
Well, the fact that both of us are struggling at the moment, we could have our but that's a bit gross. Maybe if we say our name, then we can buzz in.
So, this is quote number 1, and I'll tell you when you need to complete it.
Okay.
So, David Horton says, "They don't call me Sportin' Horton for nothing." And Hugo Horton replies, "I didn't know they called you Sportin' Horton. I thought they called you..."
Jenny!
Oh, go on, Jenny.
Dirty Days, because of your enormous collection of Victorian pornography.
1 point to Jenny.
Ruthie, you definitely knew that as well.
I knew that too, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, this is our second quote. Alice says, introducing herself to Geraldine, "You can call me Alice." Geraldine replies, "Right." What does Alice say next?
Jenny!
Ruthie.
Because it's my name.
Yes!
Yes! Did you know that too, Jenny?
Absolutely. Because it's my name. So great.
Okay, this is quote number 3. David Horton says, "You're the saddest person in the kingdom, and that's including..."
Oh.
Can we get more context on this?
Yeah.
This is from Celebrity Vicar.
But it's like a random TV presenter or a random newspaper person, isn't it?
It is someone from TV.
Saddest person. Have you got the previous quote or not? Is this just IMDb?
I'm afraid I don't. It's yeah.
Including 90 celebrities.
No, I'm going to give up on this one.
Yeah.
This person has been more controversial in recent times.
It's Gordon Brown.
Rolf Harris.
Yes.
Is it Rolf Harris?
Done.
It's Rolf Harris.
Oh, well done.
Oh no, but yes!
Yes.
Well done.
Okay. Quote number 4. Geraldine is speaking. "I've just been visiting my new parishioners. Frankly, I think they would have been less surprised
Jenny!
if..."
Jenny!
I think I heard Jenny speak first.
No!
Mr. Blobby had walked in.
Oh, no!
Can we get a more accurate wording?
Yeah, if their new vicar had been Mr. Blobby.
Yes.
Yeah!
Do I
I think
forfeit?
would have been less
Blobby
surprised
from me.
if the new vicar was Mr. Blobby.
Oh, I thought it was if Mr. Blobby had
So
walked in.
that's,
Bumsies.
Is that 3 points for Ruthie?
Yeah, 1
one to
point to gender
One to
pants.
Jenny.
Ugh,
Okay.
Come on, Jenny. Get your act
Next
together.
Geraldine is speaking. "And the winner of the broadcasting prize is, of course..."
Jenny!
Yeah.
Hugo Hot Dog Horton!
Yes. Our resident cool dude, Mr. Hugo Hot Dog Horton. And I was looking for Hugo Hot Dog.
Yeah, I would
phew.
have forgotten the middle name, so absolutely well done.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, next one. Alice is speaking. "I've done the test, and it said I wasn't pregnant."
Jenny!
Jenny?
I forgot to buzz in. Yeah.
I weeded on the hamster and it didn't turn green.
Oh, it's a different colour.
Is it yellow? Is it blue? Oh, is it blue? It's blue!
Can we get more accurate wording?
Ruthie, you buzzing.
Oh,
Ruthie,
okay,
have a go.
Ruthie.
I had a wee on it. Oh, no.
I did a wee on a hamster and it didn't turn blue.
It's the hamster didn't turn blue or anything.
I feel Jenny gets that.
What about a half point for us both?
I think it's a half point each.
Okay, nice. Half point each.
Final quote. We did an odd number to make it clear that someone would win.
Okay.
So, Geraldine is talking to children, and she says, "And where was Jesus born?"
Jenny.
Jenny.
In Dunstable.
Yes!
Jenny!
And can you complete the rest of that? Why does he does this child think that Jesus was
Because
born in
that's what
Dunstable?
Alice taught them. Jesus was born in Dunstable. And when questioned on this, she thought it was her mum had taught her that. But what her mum had really taught her was in the stable. In a stable, not in Dunstable.
So
the problem is now we're both on 3.5 points. So do you want to come up with a tiebreaker question?
Tiebreaker question.
We need to find a
Tiebreaker
quote.
question.
Okay, I will find a time.
Or can we both be winners?
No.
Is that not? That's not juicy enough. Is it?
Organise this so that you would have a chance. So that we wouldn't end up in this.
Or maybe we could both do it.
Okay. I think this is quite an easy one. David Horton says to Geraldine, "What was that socialist tract you were spouting from a pulpit last week?"
Jenny. The gospel.
No.
The Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount. Jenny. The Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah, that's
What was that, David? The Sermon on the Mount.
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah, it's I've got a feeling it was a Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah.
I scraped.
Well
through.
done, Jenny.
Do we allow that?
No, guys.
Of Dibley quotes.
I scraped through there. If there was a fence, I got underneath it, and my trousers got snagged on the spiky bit. But I continued going, and then I stood up covered in dirt. That was the victory. It wasn't good, but I really enjoyed that. Thank you both. Thank you, Ruthie. You were a worthy competitor. Thank you, Kate, for that lovely quiz.
Always here to quiz.
Love it.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed our journey back through this past few episodes, thinking about the seasonal specials of the Vicar of Dibley, which we're calling Season 3. We would love to know what your favourite parts were from these episodes. Do you agree with us? Do you think we've picked the right themes? Was there anything we missed? And what is your favourite quote?
Next, looking forward, we're going to meet a very handsome stranger soon, aren't we? And those are the things that we'll be doing in our next few episodes. And an episode that I think, I'm pretty sure it was me. I'm going to claim this one. I thought of right at the beginning of us planning this, and I am so excited for this particular episode. I'm excited!
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Vicars Watch Dibley. Thank you to Toby for editing our ramblings.
Any views expressed in this podcast are our own and don't necessarily represent those of the Church of England or any other organisations with which we are affiliated.
And as always, bless you for listening.
I want you to picture yourself in a church. It's a wedding. The bride and groom have just made their vows. The vicar looks at them lovingly. People are desperate to cheer, whoop and celebrate the very first kiss. And all of a sudden, the vicar goes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, man and wife, V, W, X, Y, Z. And the groom looks at him, he's like, oh my gosh, you just ruined our wedding day. Why on earth did you say that? And the vicar says, because I now pronounce you husband and wife.
That's awful.